Last week, we saw the Hawks being involved in various operations, including catching up with suspects in the multi-million rand Amathole district municipality toilet tender case. 10 officials and business owners were granted bail on Friday after they were arrested by the Hawks in connection with the 268 million rand that had already been paid out. Now, in 2016, the project, funded through a loan from the DBSA, was taken over by the National Department of Water and Sanitation. The NPA is calling for the case set to resume in February to be heard in the High Court. And the Hawks spokesperson, Colonel Latlego Mogale, joins us in studio for the latest on this case. Colonel, thank you so much for your time. Good morning.
Good morning.
So the 10 individuals that were arrested last week, have they made their first court appearance for bail? That is correct?
That's correct.
What are the charges that they are facing in relation to this matter?
They are facing charges of fraud, corruption, and money laundering according to the Prevention of Organized Crimes Act.
Mm-hmm. And this matter happened in 2016. It goes back to 2016. So between then and now, is it that the Hawks have been working on preparing this case, preparing to get it to court and have the people arrested? Why has there been a lag between when, the alleged corruption is said to have taken place and when we then saw action late last week?
We've been investigating, collecting evidence so that we are able to put it in front of the prosecuting authority, and they will give us guidance that we are ready to go to court, that the case is basically watertight.
Mm-hmm. And in terms of the amounts, is it correct that it is 268 million rand that had come from the Development Bank of South Africa? Are those amounts correct, or are those still to be confirmed in the course of the investigation?
The 268 has already been paid to the suspects, and then we were left with, that was out of the tender of 600 million. Mm-hmm. So at this point, some of the information will be discussed or will be made available through the trial. As you already said, that we have been at the court where they were granted bail, and the case was postponed to the 5th of February 2020.
Mm-hmm. In terms of, kind of investigating and gathering evidence for this particular investigation, were the people involved cooperative? Was the district municipality cooperative? What was the process involved? Were there any challenges? I mean, earlier on we were hearing in a separate matter, but the SIU saying they were having challenges dealing with a particular matter relating to a bulk water project. There was a willingness of the people, officials involved, to give information. What was the experience in terms of dealing with this particular investigation?
In some of the instances, there was cooperation, especially from the municipality, but with regards to some of the suspects, it was an investigation that was solely from the side of the police.
Mm-hmm. And so now that the matter has been set to resume in February next year, what happens between now and then?
Between now and then, the Hawks and the prosecuting authority will be able to now gradually and prepare for their case to be heard in front of the court.
Mm-hmm. One of the big things that has been, certainly from a public perception perspective, has been that there hasn't been as much movement on matters of fraud and corruption, especially those that are perhaps broken in the media, as you'll see investigations by Amathole or Sunday newspapers, etc. How do these investigations begin? Does there have to be a matter that is brought to the Hawks? Can the Hawks initiate an investigation based on what is reported in the media? I remember this was reported a few years ago by a journalist called Sipe Maganda, I think that was his name. How do these investigations work? Do they need to work for information to be given to the Hawks? Or can some of these matters actually be initiated?
Some of the matters are initiated by the Hawks, and some are information that is received or a complaint received from either a community or a business entity.
Mm-hmm. And in the matter with the Amathole district tender, how did that matter come about?
That was a complaint by the National Treasury.
Mm-hmm. And so what did the complaint from the National Treasury entail?
It entailed irregularities in the supply chain processes that were involved.
Mm-hmm. We often hear of issues of procurement issues or supply chain processes, certainly at a local level. Are individuals, ordinary individuals, able to make a complaint and bring that to the attention of the Hawks? If so, how do they go about doing that?
Yes, they can. You contact your nearest Hawks office in the provinces.
Where can you find a list of those officers? Is there a website?
It's within this website of the SAPS.
Okay. Colonel, thank you very much for your time this morning. It's much appreciated.
My pleasure.
That is Colonel Latlego Mogale unpacking the latest arrests relating to the Amathole District Municipality toilets tender.